Welcome to Feelings and Other F Words. The F word today is all about fathers. With Father's Day coming up, this is the perfect topic for us to be discussing because I don't think we talk about dads enough, right? I really, truly don't. Dads are interesting creatures. I mean, at least my father's an interesting creature. I'll share this story with you. My father, Anthony, who is an Italian man from New Jersey. So just let that paint whatever picture it needs for you. And you're probably right. But my father is very interesting. He's very direct. He's not touchy feely, but he's like weirdly sweet, right? Like he won't always, like gush over you, but he'll drive 7 hours to help you mount a TV, right? Like that kind of thing. So one day it was my mom, myself, my dad. We were driving back from something in New York City. This was a while ago, right? I was an adult, but I wasn't like an adult with kids because my children weren't with me. But it was funny. So my parents have this really cute side quest that they are trying to find the world's best carrot cake. Like that's their thing together. It's adorable, right? So my mom was telling me this story. She's like, I came home the other day and there was this box in the fridge and I opened it up and your father got me this a beautiful carrot cake and he had it inscribed. And I was like, what do you mean inscribed? She was like, with like icing. I was like, he gave you a personalized cake? I'm like, that's adorable. What did it say? And he's sitting right there, right? Like smiling, like, oh, I did good. She's like, it said for Barbara. It's my mother's name, Barbara, right? She's like, I opened up the box. The cake and icing said for Barbara. And I was like, for Barbara? Not like my dearest love, the reason my heart beats, like, I love you. She's like, no, for Barbara. And my father driving, started to get so mad because we just kept going on with all the different things this cake could say. Like, to my roommate, hey, buddy, you over there, baby mama. Like, we were just ragging on him so badly. And he got so mad. And he finally got so defensive. He's like, the lady at the counter asked me who it was for. I told her it was for Barbara, and that's what she wrote on the cake. He's like, you guys are jerks. And then he wouldn't talk to us for the rest of the ride. Luckily, I grew up right outside New York City, so it wasn't that long. But he eventually got over it. And then a couple years later, I remember he got me like an iPad or something for Christmas. And on the back, he had it inscribed for Daryl. So at that point, I knew he had gotten over it and has seen how funny it is. So now it's this like running joke in our family. So every card I send my mother says for Barbara on it. But dads are interesting, right? And I know I love dad stories. I love dadisms. I love dad jokes. Jimmy, good God, loves a dad joke. I don't know what happens. I need to see some science on why that becomes a thing. But dads are interesting and dads matter, right? Listen, I'm all for mothers. I like leaned in hard to motherhood, tried to find my tribe, like your kid screaming, I'm right next to you being like, hey, soul sister, like, yeah, I'm with it, right? I love a good motherhood. I love a good sisterhood, but dads matter. And there's science that show just how much dads matter. I'm not saying moms don't matter. They absolutely do. We know that. But this is about the dads today, ladies. Those children who grow up in a home without a father or a father figure. This means adoptive father, stepfather. This is not children of divorce. This is children without fathers in their lives. 1 in 4 kids live without a father in their home. This is from the U.S. Census Bureau. And that's about 18.3 million children. And really and truly, when you think about those numbers, 1 in 4, that's epidemic standards. And I looked in the research. This transcends race. This transcends culture. This transcends socioeconomic status. It does not matter. We still have these numbers happening, and there are no predictive factors of why it happens or why it doesn't happen. So this is something that happens a lot. And then when we look at the back end research, children who grow up without a father in the home are 2 times more likely to suffer from mental health and behavioral issues. They're more likely, when you look at studies about runaways and homelessness in children, 80 or 90% of those children come from fatherless homes. Those who have dads involved do better in school. They're less likely to have teen pregnancies. They're more likely to have degrees. They're more likely to have advanced degrees. So dads absolutely matter in the home. And we don't know necessarily like specifically why and where. I have to imagine part of it's because the mom has some help or the other partner has some help, right? however your family makeup is. I have to imagine too, like there's something about being partners, and the environment that creates, literally, of modeling behavior and things like that. And I also have to imagine there's something unique that dads teach kids. And I think that's really special and wonderful. And I think that we don't do a great job of always giving a platform might be the wrong word, giving access and availability for dads to grow and hone in on those skills, because I've never really had this conversation before. So I can't imagine all of us are out there talking about it all the time. And maybe we are. Maybe I'm in the dark. Perhaps. Let me know. But when I was looking at figuring out fatherhood from like a scientific level, there's not a ton of research about what happens to dads on this like cellular level, right? When moms are pregnant with babies, their heartbeats sink and their hormones change and their oxytocin levels skyrocket. Like, we see all this stuff of what happens when moms become moms. But when dads become dads, we don't really know. So there's a few studies out there, and I think that they're interesting, but I think we need a bit more. Now, bonding is not the same with mom and dad. We see this in how we play. I've seen something online on like Instagram, so I can't confirm if it's like scientifically true or not, but dads roughhousing with kids, stimulates their brain, and moms hugging kids, gives them oxytocin in different ways. So it like stimulates different parts of the brain for a kid, which makes sense, right? Seems like it makes sense. I just haven't fact checked it, but that's interesting, right? On a cellular level, though, there's been animal studies that show that the brain is flooded with new neurons in new dads to help them adapt and connect with their offspring, specifically like, animals who have pups. And they found that their sense of smell actually improved greatly, and they were able to recognize their pup even weeks after being separated with them just by smell alone. And you're like, yeah, I mean, animals smell, that's a thing. But this was like to such a deep level that they were able to like distinguish characteristics and stuff like that. So it was interesting because I haven't seen a study about smell in men post baby, but I do have videos of Jimmy changing diapers, and you would think the man's sense of smell has changed because he was gagging from this smelly diaper, which I thought, sir, you're a foot and ankle doctor. I'm sure you've smelled worse. But anyway, I digress. But in humans, right? Back to the men, back to the fathers, back to the studies. In humans, we see that there's also a change in the brain. And this was a study that was published in Cerebral Cortex, which I'm sure many of you read. So I deeply apologize if you've read it and I'm just giving you old information, because who doesn't subscribe to Cerebral Cortex? But it shows that first-time dads show a longitudinal gray matter volume reduction. And that's just a fancy way of saying first-time dads, your brain shrinks. Sorry, bro, right? Which is interesting because you might think like, well, that sounds counterintuitive. Like, you're a dad and now your brain shrinks, your gray matter shrinks. That's not helpful. But it is. It is, because it only occurs in the area of the brain that's used to daydream. It only occurs in the area of the brain that's used to think about other people, right? And this is a very passive and unfocused area of the brain. And it's really great for deep thinking. It's not so great for newborns. So this area specifically shrinks. And there's this part of me in my mom brain, like, that's like, as it should. Who has time to daydream? But I do find it interesting. And a lot of my clients are men. They do say things like, I feel like I've lost myself. I feel like, in this process of being a dad, and it's one of the most rewarding things ever. And while I found myself in a bunch of ways, I've also had to work really hard at finding myself again. And I'm wondering, again, I haven't seen any correlation, but I am wondering if there's a causation there of one and the other, of you're not able to deep think and daydream as much. And part of that is what makes us us, or allows us to feel free and not bounded by reality. And maybe having this focus, this hyper focus come into play can be something that impacts men. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I do know it's important that men take care of themselves, dads take care of themselves just as much as moms take care of themselves. I do know that it's important to make sure that you are aligned with your partner on what parenting means and looks like for you. I do know that taking time and inventory to develop as a parent is something that's wildly important because you're doing this for the first time, just like your baby's doing stuff for the first time. So as parents, and especially for the dads out there, like it's okay to lean into honing in on your skills of being a dad and being very intentional about what that looks like and what that means. Like, I'm sure there's formal education out there. And if there's not, like, let's get it going. All that to say, dads come in all shapes and sizes. And your parent structure, your family structure might be wildly different. And that's okay, right? That's why I think opportunities like Big Brother, Big Sister are amazing. Giving back, allowing yourself to be a part of somebody else's story is so wonderful. But dads truly come in all shapes and sizes. And coming up after the break, I have one of my favorite fathers in my life coming to talk to us. He is an actor, he is a writer, he's a producer, he is an entrepreneur, and he's the father of two wonderful girls. Actor John Brotherton is joining us. You might have seen him in some blockbuster hits like The Conjuring or on some TV absolute hit shows like Fuller House. And he's going to be talking specifically about being a famous dad and what comes with that and what that looks like and some of the things that he didn't think about before kids that maybe he takes a few beats to think about now post kids. And I just really loved this conversation. One of my favorite human beings. Spoiler alert, he's married to my cousin. So this was just done out of, I'm sure, some sort of family guilt. So I appreciate him deeply for even coming on Feelings and Other F Words. But can't wait after the break on Feelings and Other F Words, John Brotherton. Stay tuned. You definitely don't want to miss this one. Welcome back to Feelings and Other F Words. Our guest today has a dynamic career spanning television and film, including shows like Fuller House, 911, Dead Boy Detectives, and blockbuster movies that you may have heard of, like Furious 7 of the Fast and Furious franchise, Guardians of the Galaxy, and The Conjuring. And most recently added to the already impressive resume is energy drink mogul with the launch of his clean, non-GMO energy drink, B-Goat, which we're totally going to talk about. And on top of all of that, he is a very proud girl dad of two actually awe-inspiring human beings. Here today with us on Feelings and Other F Words to touch on fame, fatherhood, and future directions is the Hallmark heartthrob, John Brotherton.
I think I have to hire you as my publicist.
Done.
One of the many hats that you wear.
Done and done. I'm happy to have you here.
Cheersing that since you brought it up.
Yes, and yes.
Thank you for having me.
I think that this is long overdue, and I feel like I need to tell the audience that the only reason this is happening is because of nepotism. John is married to my fantastic, gorgeous, brilliant first cousin. He's a lucky man, and he has two daughters. I guess they're my first cousin. We do this every time. I don't actually know.
Listen, you're like, I mean, I don't know you're their aunt, you're an aunt, really. You know what I mean?
That is very true. I was thinking about, as I was preparing for this, and it's so funny because I think it must have been before I had the girls because I don't remember packing 900 bags, but we were down in Long Beach Island and I have this distinct memory. I was standing with Sailor, one of your daughters, and we were online for the Ferris wheel at Fantasy Island. And it was in the height of Fuller House. And I remember you just getting mobbed by like teenage girls and their moms and a few dads on the fringe. And I remember Sailor looking at me being like, oh, I just want to get on this ride. Like it was something that was so funny. And it got me thinking as I was like, yeah, this is stuff that not every kid needs to go through or not every kid has to go through. Like, how do you navigate this fame and maintain some normalcy in your life with the pressures and the visibility of, fame and what comes with that?
Yeah, it's interesting because like now they're like seasoned vets with it. They kind of, like you said, like roll their eyes but it's been an interesting balance. I think one thing which is funny for them especially is like in LA, nobody cares. Like for whatever reason, you go to the store, you go wherever, like nobody's paying attention, frankly, because there's people everywhere. And, I couldn't be more just dad. And then it's like when we leave LA as a family, especially when we go to family type places like Long Beach Island, the Jersey Shore, that's when they see the rest of America recognize their dad. And, I think they have mixed emotions about it. I think sometimes they think it's really fun and cute and, oh, dad's with his fans, they've said many times. And then other times, I think the balance that I've had to make that like Allie's helped me point out is always making sure no matter what the situation is, that they're my priority. And sometimes that's easier than others. Like if it's just a small group, that's easy. But there's been big situations, where like say leaving the Kids' Choice Awards where we're getting like completely mobbed and flashbulbs. But like my littles were little then, and like they have to be, priority number one in those moments. So, and it's, I think I'm also lucky that I was a part and have been a part of things that are very family friendly. So the response and the reflection of the public that I've always got is very bright and happy, and which is easy for them to fall, in line with and enjoy that their dad was part of a show that their friends love, that they love the show regardless of dad. And so the fandom that they see come their way is like, it's easy to enjoy. And they got to be in an episode, which was really exciting for them. They grew up running around those stages. They would go and run around craft services or be back in the makeup room. And, on the weekends, we'd go to the lot, what Warner Brothers, like it was a park, and they'd go run around the back lot. Like that was, that's just how they kind of grew up, which is so odd. But that's their normal. So
has it changed since having kids versus pre-kids, like the roles that you would have taken or that you think about now? Like,
I definitely keep them in mind. Like I'm always like, is this something that I would be okay with my kids watching? Which is something that, and there are roles that, auditions will come in and I'm like, I'm just going to pass on this because this is not something that either I feel comfortable doing or I'm comfortable with my kids seeing. Now, there's plenty of stuff that I've done that I don't want my kids to see yet. Like the Conjuring, Sailor hasn't seen yet. But I always want it to be something that no matter their age, they're going to be proud of their dad. So when they come of age and they're able to watch different projects I've done, like I recently did the film that I was out there doing, the Heather Graham movie, Chosen Family, they certainly can't see it now. They can see parts of it. But one day when they see it, I still want them to be proud of it. So that's, for sure. It comes into play.
Have you and Allie, your wife, sat down and talked about like, hey, listen, this is a green light. Go ahead. This is kind of like yellow. We got to sit down. Like, how do you navigate that with your partner?
About which roles to choose?
Yeah, which roles to choose, which movies to let them watch.
She's always we've always just really been on the same page as far as films, TV and film work for me. As far as letting them watch, that's just been a tricky thing to navigate because especially everything's so accessible to kids now.
Yeah.
So, frankly, one of my, Sailor, she doesn't want to watch things that would like scare her so like she's self-regulating. Like we don't have to worry about what she's watching. My other one, we certainly have to keep an eye on and make sure, but she's a good kid. So, but I think she's at that age now, like she's kind of liking scary movies and liking, the excitement of action and all that stuff. So.
Well, and she's going into high school. We were just talking about that before, which is wild. And funny story, I only saw The Conjuring because you were in it, because I do not like scary movies. So my best friend, Meg, Meg, we went together. And then it was set in Rhode Island. And I was living there at the time. Like I had just moved to Rhode Island. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Harrisville, Rhode Island.
That was a fun time and a fun night.
Just gotta rewatch it.
Yeah, it's just so I'm with Sailor. I'm with Sailor on the movie front of things.
We used to threaten them when they were getting in trouble. Like, if you don't stop doing whatever it is they're doing, we're going to make you watch The Conjuring. I think it still works with Sailor, not so much with Shy.
You got a little bit of time left on that one. I mean, it's got to be interesting too. So like the girls are getting older, like they have their own lives. They're amazing basketball players. Like, you are a very proud girl dad in that. And I love that. Do you find it hard to, like, or has there ever been a time where they've been performing in their own rights, right? On their stage, on the basketball stage, and you've tried not to overshadow them, or like, has that been something you've had to navigate or think about to like let them have their time and space?
Yeah, I mean, luckily I'm not like so overwhelmingly famous that I walk into the gym and like I'm this massive distraction. But it's like, I remember when first time I was with Vin Diesel, he described his celebrity as being in prison because he can't do things like that. Like, I'm certainly, not like that, but there's definitely times where I've just tried to be aware that this is their moment. And like, even if like other kids, but it's never been something that's like overwhelming. Like, I've been stealing the spotlight in some way. If anything, I just want to always make sure my attention is on them in moments that matter. Like, like if they're in the game, sometimes someone can approach me and my focus is like on my kids in the game, and usually I'm recording. And so like, that's not a time that I'm going to be overly like, yeah, let's take pictures, which I'm usually, I have no problem doing. Again, usually it's kids and stuff. But when my kids are in the game, like my focus is certainly on them.
And I think that's a cool, work-life boundary that I think, that you have. And I know a lot of the executives and athletes I work with, like, sometimes they have to navigate that. It's like, you're never not working, but also like, I'm here not in that capacity. And it's something that I think it comes up a lot for men and women, but I see it in the conversations I have a little bit more with men.
Yeah.
And being able to distinguish the two.
The big one that we've had to navigate with them is like, not necessarily as much like is the bummer that they've had to deal with is that all eyes are always on us, and not overwhelming. Again, it's not like I'm some huge celebrity, but like, people like we've had to really work on that. People are aware of them. So especially if they're acting up when they were younger, well, still like, listen, but like, it's like, guys, like, people are paying attention, and that in some ways it's not fair to them that they can't just be a kid that like can act up without people going, John Brotherton's kids are brats, but they're not, they're wonderful. But I'm just saying that's something we've had to really like make them aware of, is that people are aware of them, and like, people are watching, and it's not fair as that may be. That's the reality. So like, if we're in, like, at the Jersey Shore, at the arcade, like, there's a lot of kids there that know that who they are, and that's unfortunate to them, but that's something that just they've had to deal with and be aware of, and take accountability and be responsible for their own behavior.
And I don't think as parents, I think we're all hyper aware of how our children act in our social circles of like, we never want to be the parent who's like, those Apple twins over there, like, oh my God. But at the same time, it goes so much further for, somebody who's in the public eye, that it's hypervigilance probably most of the time.
Totally. Because it's unfortunate. It's not something they should have to think about. I hate to say that, but it's like, we've had to just really hammer it home. We'll be out at a restaurant. I'm like, guys, you like, listen, like, people are so aware right now. Like, you have to, I'm sorry, but it's the reality. You got to lock in. Exactly.
Lock it in. No, I was talking not too long ago with one of the, international fraternities. I was out in Indy, and kind of on the subject of fatherhood, like global fatherhood or macro fatherhood. And he was saying that at his specific fraternity, his men, in the last 3 years, 1 in 3 comes from a fatherless home. And this idea of how fathers impact their children. And there's so much out there on moms and the impact of mothers. And I think we're just starting to realize a little bit more how important fathers are, and this father effect, like some of the research that I was talking about at the beginning of this episode, it's staggering. Some of the numbers I have down here, fathers who are involved in their children's lives, and again, boys, girls, whatever, are 2 times more likely to go to college. They're 80% less likely to go to jail. They're 75% less having teen pregnancies. Like, wow. 71% of people who grew up without a father in the home are part of high school dropouts that, category. 90% of them are homeless and runaways. So like not 90% of children who don't have dads, but of
No,
the population, they come from that. So
wow.
it's so important being a dad. How has being a father for you changed the way that you look at the world?
Well, it's
And
my
how?
favorite thing it's absolutely my favorite thing on the planet. I grew up with a single mom who was amazing, and just was everything I could have asked for in a mom. But being a dad, uh, yeah, man, and I think I'm really, I just love having girls too. There's something, especially girls that are like little badasses. It's, I don't have wallflowers. And so it's been definitely my greatest joy is parenthood. And yeah, and I want, it's something I want to be their everything. Sometimes that probably gets me into trouble, as far as letting them get away with more than they should at times. But I just want to be what they hope one day, they share a home with.
And I think, it's funny because you hear people say this, and until you're a parent, you really can't understand like why it sounds like a cheesy, Hallmark card, which is amazing and wonderful. But like until you're there, I think, it just sounds like words, and then you actually start to live it. And I was just watching your episode on 911 and kind of this role of father that maybe wouldn't be something that you would aspire to be. How is it playing, father type roles that are very, not who you are? Is it just part of the job? Does it impact you at all? Does it make you think?
Well, roles like that are fun. Fatherhood roles are always fun now that I'm a father, regardless of what the kind of role is, because you just understand the relationship. And so I really enjoy playing like fatherhood roles now that because I'm a dad. And I'm really, comfortable in those roles. This one in particular, being that he, had a severe alcohol problem. That was a whole different thing to, tap into, and the darkness that comes along with that. And that, there's people very close to me that, I've witnessed be in that situation. And so that's where really that came from. And, their parenting choices sometimes, like the character Tim I was playing, aren't personal. In other words, the things that he was doing to his son aren't personal. It's really an attack on himself, a self-reflection of the demons he's battling inside.
Yeah, it's got to be a difficult job to be other people and to like have to get into the psyche of that. Is there any residuals that like where you're like, I just need to spend some time in the car, in the driveway before I walk in the house?
No, it's funny. Every role is way different. Some you get to walk into and you can just have fun with and walk right out of. And other roles are really heavy. This role in particular was very heavy. I definitely felt very isolated for that week in my own, like my car time and my trailer time. But I also got to let myself, it was fun because it usually, for lack of a better term, they always make you look pretty. Like I'm at my prettiest version. My makeup's perfect. My hair is usually perfect. Like I'm usually some like leading man is the goal. Whereas this was like from the makeup to the hair to everything was about like falling apart. And that was really fun to sort of just lean into, because I was also able to do that emotionally, because part of when you're playing a leading man is like you're just on. It's like trying to maintain an adrenaline rush where you're just resonating higher than everyone.
Mm.
This was something very internal where I got to sort of emotionally completely let go and kind of just like allow myself to fall through it, if that makes any sense. So, it's weird. Like different roles are therapeutic in many different ways, because the second you wrap on a job like this, it's the highest high. Like it's so fun when, so it's a weird, it's like you put yourself through this sort of emotional roller coaster and then you come out like you just got out of the spa. It's really cool.
So you must have like home must be a very protected space. Like your other hobbies must be protected. Like your other ventures outside of acting must be something that you're very intentional about then.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's where like fatherhood comes in because it's so different. It's like my attention's fully on something completely different. And then, in fact, I'm trying to get better at my own hobbies and like, my own time is. In fact, my wife's like trying to get me out of the house. She's like, go play some more golf. Uh, it's been a balance for sure.
And tell me about this new company you're starting. Because again, it feels very intentional, very different than the space you're doing. I have to imagine that it's a little bit rejuvenating to be in a space that feels exciting, maybe in a different way.
Oh man, well, I got a whole backstory. Be Goat. So it's really cool. I mean, I certainly can't take credit for it from the inception of it. One of my best friends, who is a fraternity brother of mine, 25 years ago, he was one of the first 5 on Rockstar, the energy drink, and he helped launch that and helped launch a bunch of different brands along the way. And it's just been a successful entrepreneur, but always really wanted to do his own thing. And he also wanted to do it right. Like everything that Rockstar, is like the last thing you'd ever really want to drink, especially for your health. And he created this drink, Be Goat, be your greatest of all time. It's 100% clean, non-GMO. There's nothing in it. Essentially what it is the coffee berry, or they call it the coffee cherry. It's called the cascara berry. Traditionally, they've taken the bean out, roasted the bean. That's how you get coffee, and it becomes bitter after you roast it, and they throw the husk away. Well, the husk has all the same properties that are good from coffee, like antioxidants, caffeine, things like that. But it's sweet. It's got natural sugars. So we've taken that and fused it into a seltzer, and it's like completely clean, there's nothing, processed in it. And it's like having a caffeinated seltzer that's refreshing and clean and fun on a summer day at, 1 PM when you don't want a bitter coffee.
I think that's much needed, especially now with all the research and all the studies coming out about things like Celsius and Red Bull, and it's a little concerning.
Yeah, it's really, and that was really his goal. Is he wanted just something that he could be super proud of, that there's no kind of dark cloud hanging over. It's like it's all good people behind it. So that's why he called, and we had worked together on multiple ventures before. We've always been 2 good friends that have been dreamers, so we've always supported each other's dreams through the years. And now that he was doing this, he called me up and he said, I want to get you involved. And, we've got a nice little thing going and a fun partnership. And I've tried to bring Hollywood to his, to the front door, Be Goat. So it's been fun. Cool. It's been a really fun venture.
Where can we get it?
Well, right now in the stores, we're in about 500 stores in the Northwest. So we're in Oregon, Washington, Idaho, but we can be drop shipped anywhere. We're on Amazon, where our influencer program, like our affiliate program, is exploding, which has been really cool. We are growing, we're scaling. So we'll be in more stores soon. I know I think we're going to California this year, and we're sort of, if you could imagine the map, we're growing from the Northwest. But in today's world where you can get stuff drop shipped, I mean, anybody can go right on Amazon, look up Be Goat. It's something I'm just super proud of because it's just clean. It's got 7 ingredients. You can pronounce all of them. It's not some weird. So anyways, yeah, thank you for.
No. And what is it, the social links and things like that for you or for Be Goat or both that people can.
I'm just my name, John Brotherton, and Be Goat's drink Be Goat.
Perfect.
So, yeah. And, go on the website, check it out. We're very transparent, which is fun to be behind a brand like that. It's look at our label. We have our label, blown up, take a peek behind the curtains. You can't get any cleaner than us. So,
and I'm looking at the chat here exploding, and people are saying, I'm going to buy some right now.
Oh, I like that.
Ready to go.
Use coupon code Brotherton. You get 10% off.
There you go, people. You heard it first. Clean energy. That's what I talk about all the time too. Emotionally, clean burning energy. It also comes from the things we put in our body. It's probably the first source that we should be looking at. So
yeah, amen.
Go get your Be Goat. Go check out John Brotherton and all of his endeavors coming up. What's coming up for you? What's next?
Oh man. Well, I'm about to go do another one of these wonderful Hallmark movies, which is always fun. We shoot them in the summer to look like winter. So I'll be sweating in scarves. How we do it. 9-1, we got another episode. Well, I don't know when this is airing, but I got another episode of 911 coming out this week, which is fun. That's been a real neat little deal. Working with Peter Krause is amazing. I've been a fan of his for years. And so this episode was really cool.
Amazing. And final question, what is your favorite F word?
Listen, I think fuck is such a great word. I'll use it in anything, as an adjective, as a noun, as a state of mind, as
there
a
you
go. Yeah.
And I have to imagine being married to a Jersey girl. That's really
infused. Yeah. Used it once or twice.
That is amazing. Well, everyone, check out John Brotherton, check out B-Goat. Make sure you are following along, liking, subscribing, and listening to all episodes of Feelings and Other F Words, wherever you get your podcasts. Till next time, I want to thank John for spending some time, our audience here for asking some really great questions that I'll post later. But in the meantime, we will see you all soon. Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Waters Productions. We capture the moment, so you capture the memory.